Good evening and welcome to the Minions of the Zoo Saturday edition. I think I call it, what do I call it, Streamapalooza? I'll change it. I don't know.
Like
I don't know
name.
what I'm doing.
Streamapalooza doesn't sound
Is
good.
my audio okay, or am I super hot again like last time?
You're good.
Okay.
Fuego, Eddie!
Chad, if I'm too loud, just say something,
Arriba.
okay? Now they're gonna mess with me. Why am I even saying that?
Yes, but
Anyway,
long thing.
with me tonight are Minions Serenity Star 13,
Hello.
DrFunctional,
Of course.
Sora Luna, who's like Techno Thoth, I think.
Hello.
Techno Thoth. Geodes, who's the Killdozer,
Yep, that's me.
and SkepTock.
Hi, everybody.
How was your day,
The
SkepTock?
turkey in space.
He is a turkey in space.
I am a turkey in space. I'm an old turkey in space. It was good, just doing little things around the house, grandkids, errands. It all just vanishes into the mist. Naps. It's been a good day. Been an easygoing day.
Well, it's good.
Yeah.
It's actually going to rain here in California. I
Water
know
from the
it's
sky.
yeah, from the sky. And instead of the amount of rain getting smaller and smaller each time I check it as the time gets closer, it's actually getting larger. And I even added thunderstorms in for Tuesday. It's just messing with me. It's not actually going to happen. I'll believe it when it happens, but
Oh, with La Nina, that's the one I believe that results in increased precipitation in the northern hemisphere, especially in North America.
well, in
It's
parts
always
of
good
it,
skiing. It's always good skiing in La Nina.
well, El Nino is the one that gives me more water typically. La Nina usually means less water for the west. You've got them reversed.
Depends
I
if
think.
you're north or south.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Canadian,
Yeah.
British Columbian.
I'm sorry, you're not the only West Coaster here. I'm just saying.
No, the point is that what the La Nina
Nina
does is it shifts the atmospheric river or the jet stream further. It basically dumps the jet stream on top of Sora instead of giving me a jab at it every now and then. But mercifully, we're going to get some rain in Central California, probably.
Is it La Nina that increases the? Is it El Nino that increases the precipitation in North America? I thought it was El Nino. I really did.
Well, La Nina and El Nino.
Yeah, El Nino. Yeah,
Yeah, gendered weather. It's really very oppressive. I don't know how they've got.
My Spanish is the problem.
They haven't gotten around to talking about how oppressive the weather is, because gendering the weather. Did anybody ask the weather what gender it was? I don't think so.
And did we run out of English
Even
names?
ask
for
them if they're
Christ's sake?
Spanish.
Exactly. Hey, Geodes.
Hey,
I think you were trying to select new internet last time we talked.
yeah, a little bit.
You're trying to get internet that doesn't suck.
Trying to get something a little faster.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, it's gonna take a bit. And until then, I've just been doing my usual thing, occasionally annoying somebody, but that's about it.
You should get DSL. I hear that's the good one.
Yeah,
I
totally.
love-
Also,
Giggity.
this is another piece of advice. One thing you can do to speed up your computer is where you have system32.exe, you want to change that to system64. That makes better use of the processor. Just rename that file, and then you'll get double the speed.
Yeah, totally.
Totally
Yeah,
get on that.
Nobody in chat listen to Harry.
Yeah, don't actually do that, guys.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Hi,
do,
Sora.
you get what's coming to you.
Hi.
How are you today?
Oh, it was a beautiful day today. We had a horrifically scary windstorm last night. I was waiting for the power to go out. Luckily, it didn't on our end, but I could hear trees breaking in half for a good couple hours last night.
Damn.
Yeah, we're in La Nina here, and we're gonna get possible snowfall and higher elevations tonight into tomorrow for the rest of the week.
Nice.
So yay, November.
Yay.
It's November is here.
It's November. Well,
Yeah.
well, at
It's
least
gonna. We might have actually the snowpocalypse again. They're
Oh,
saying it's
boy.
gonna be that bad this year here,
nice.
and it was
Nice.
bad the last couple of times.
Hmm.
If I disappear for a couple of days at a time, it's because I have no power.
It's too bad you can't just go to Baja, check into a cheap hotel, and work remotely. That won't work for you, unfortunately.
It would be hilarious.
Why?
But no.
Why can't Harry? Why don't they just burn the snow for fuel? What is snow made of? Hydrogen and oxygen.
Yeah.
Both those things burn, right? It
Mhm.
should be a simple matter.
That's like the Food Babe. You know about Food Babe, the one who was complaining about they have the same stuff in Subway bread as you use in yoga mats. She gives the most simplistic, ridiculous chemistry advice about things.
Oh yeah.
Probably why
There's
I'm not
sodium
familiar with it.
chloride in there.
That
Whoa.
dihydrogen oxide sounds really promising.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dihydrogen oxide. It's everywhere.
it's everywhere.
It's what should we do about this?
We
gotta
should
do
harness
something.
it.
We should tax
burn it.
people more
Burn it for fuel.
Yeah,
so we can burn it.
yeah. That's some good thinking. Functional. How was your day?
Yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, yeah,
That's why I'm just here to talk over other people's time, not
yeah. Okay.
no,
Point of personal
lazy
privilege.
Saturday, painting, video games.
Point of personal privilege. Anything like
Point
that?
of personal privilege. Some of us have audio sensory sensitivities, so if you could stop with the gifs in the panel, that would be great.
Yeah, we're doomed. Okay, and Serenity.
Those aren't
Yes.
human.
How are things? Your neck of the wood.
It's all good.
It's all good. Yeah, you're in one of the
Yeah.
few parts of the country that doesn't have a drought, so that's
Yep.
awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
They have all
Okay.
the other weather problems. But they don't
All
have
the other
drought.
weather problems.
We're so used to it. It's like meh.
Yeah, they're
Sora's
punched
monopolizing all the straight line winds.
Oh, we're
Serenity's
getting
got all the water.
it's windy
Mhm.
through here. It's not as bad, like because the trees around here are fairly young enough that I can see them swaying, but none of them cracked last night, so it wasn't as bad as Sora's wind problem.
I'm kind of a weather wonk. I know this will come as a huge surprise to everybody. A long time ago, when I was in elementary school, they had funding for some sort of gifted education thing, and I was this one school I went to for like 1 year, I was the only kid who qualified. So I got to spend the entire budget for the school on just me. So they said, here, what stuff do you want to do? So I said, I'll do this thing on the brain. I'll do this thing on weather. I'll do this thing. And I got all this independent study stuff. And so I did like a whole year of pretty much independent study. That was awesome.
Most specialist kid in class.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, the special Haley.
It was awesome. But I did all this independent study, and one of the things I did was weather. So I would just, you build your own barometer and do all this, learn all about how fronts and different things work. It was a pretty good time. It was an absolutely terrible school I was going to. But it turned out I had an amazingly good teacher. And the only reason he was there is this was at a time when having gay teachers was considered a problem. So they shoved him off in this really terrible school where I just ended up for 1 year. And he was actually probably one of the best teachers I ever had before university.
Was
He
his
was
name
an
Mr. Robinson?
His name was not Mr. Robinson, but he was an outstanding teacher. And so what would have been a really terrible year of my life ended up being pretty awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I was very lucky. My sister going to the same school had one of the worst teachers she's ever had. And so it all balanced out. Unfortunately, she got all of the shit and I got all of the good stuff. It was really not fair at all. So don't recommend it. I know. Did I say the quiet part out loud? I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, to make you feel a little bit better, when I got home tonight, I saw something in the road in front of my house, and I sort of tried to drive around it. And then I noticed, I did, and then I parked my car, and then I noticed the smell of shit. And I go out and I find that somebody had just dropped a cheap plastic yard bag with about 10 pounds of shit. Not nice manure that's been, horse manure that's been sterilized and that's good for something. I mean, like, crap. And I don't know
Human
why it's there.
feces?
I don't know if it's human or
Dog?
canine or what it is,
Ugh.
but it's nasty.
Ugh.
It's so there was some delay getting set up because I had to just. I went to do something about it. It's like I don't have a crap shovel big enough. I need like an elephant shovel for this stuff. And
I thought-
it's like I
We're
want to
gonna
be a
need
good
bigger
citizen.
shovel.
I want to be a good citizen, but I am not.
Yeah, no.
Putting on gloves and leaning down and taking this
No,
stuff
no,
and
no, no.
subdividing it with my hands. That ain't happening.
Ugh,
Nope.
no.
Nope.
So I pushed that shit literally out of
Literally.
the way a little bit so that I won't drive over it. And I'm just going to call the city and say, you come deal with this. And if they tell me it's not their problem, I'll say, well, not my problem either.
That's
Somebody
nice-
is going to come up with a tape of you pushing that shit around, and they'll say you put it out there. It's going to get blamed on you. You know this is going to come back on you.
Maybe.
No good deed goes unpunished, Eric.
See, this is the reason why it's nice to live in places where there's snow, because you have a snow shovel and you can handle that shit, literally.
If they have video of me moving it, then they have video of whoever dropped it. And that person is not me. Yeah, a snow shovel would be fine, but I was going to basically start setting up the show a half hour early. I had all this extra time. Everything was going to be great. And then
that shit happens.
Shit happened, and then it's like, God damn it.
Literally and figuratively.
Well, speaking of things that are vaguely unsettling and disgusting, this happened.
First world problem.
Yeah. Oh, wait. We don't want to be solo layout. We want to be this. Excellent. Okay. So, have any of you been keeping track of this whole Paul Pelosi thing? So, Fox News has been leading with this story that NBC briefly published something that went more or less as follows. And I'm just saying what NBC said before they retracted a story. That when they showed up a half hour after Paul Pelosi called to investigate his wellness, Paul Pelosi answered the door, and then as the police were at the door, he moved back toward his supposed hammer-wielding assailant. And everything
got
is
hit
just...
on the head.
And then there was like some sort of hammer fight, and then he ends up in the hospital. None of this makes any sense whatsoever. Do you guys want to talk about this? Should I just do I have a big banner that I can wear that just says allegedly?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
do
should
allegedly.
probably put that up.
I'm gonna
And
I'm
for
gonna
the
make
record,
a new
I'm
banner.
not laughing that a senior got bashed in the head. It just feels like it's some wacko skit that's happening.
Well, I know
Let's see.
Mimology has the actual NBC report, the actual recording of it, on his channel right now. God knows how long that's going to last.
I heard the police activity report, the raw police tape, where the policeman describes the assailant, not Paul Pelosi, but the assailant as a friend of Paul Pelosi. And you hear this guy says he's a friend. Okay.
Well, that could just be code when he was making the 911 calls so as not to attract attention, or it could mean something else completely different. I don't
That's
know.
the narrative that the legacy media is going with. So I immediately don't believe that.
I'm with Functional. I'm like,
Yeah.
That immediately, as soon as
Yeah.
that came to, they started talking about that aspect.
X it out.
yeah,
MSNBC,
really.
CNN, the usual suspects, all the talking heads, they all started saying that in lockstep, and I'm immediately like, nope.
I do not believe you.
For the 757th time, shame on me.
Yep. At
No,
that point,
not gonna
fucking. Okay, screw it. I'll be wrong. I'll accept it.
I love the Tucker face.
Oh boy.
It's that right level of skepticism, what the fuck, and just sadness that this is reality.
Yeah.
It's like, what
He
the
does not-
Portrayed in
fuck?
one man's expression. Just gorgeous.
Well, it's just pretty wild because by comparison, there was this story, and I think this is one that Geodes sent,
Mm-hmm.
which is
I
Marco
mentioned-
Rubio canvasser violently attacked in Dem neighborhood. Sorry, that guy's in rough shape. It was worse for him than it is for us seeing this picture. But this doesn't get any play.
No,
Right.
I mentioned
Because-
that last week.
Yeah.
It's already out of the news cycle, and people were it was still a topic that people were still talking about on the news shows and on the news entertainer shows. And then immediately as when the Paul Pelosi incident happened, this silence, which is a shame because I mean we know what happened here.
I'm going to stop showing that picture just because it's a little gross.
Well, that might
I
be
feel
the
so
thing that get
bad
us
for
hit.
him.
Sorry, what?
That might be the thing that get us hit with
Oh, yeah.
iron issues, because blood, because evil.
Maybe if he wasn't out canvassing for a Republican, he wouldn't have got hurt.
You
Yeah.
know,
Think of that.
that's pretty logical.
Wrong place, wrong time.
That tracks.
Yeah.
You know, what was he wearing?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
What-
go full.
yeah.
Let's go full victim blaming here, shall we?
Marco Rubio T-shirt. That's asking for it. That's begging for it. You know.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know. Can't expect people to show any
Well,
sympathy, right?
my buddy Michael Schoenberger, one of the few logical people in California, put a thing in his Substack. It's actually worth taking a look if you're looking for something else to read. If you get tired of reading Jonathan Turley's stuff, there's always Schellenberger. He's a darn good journalist. He's very good at getting information with FOIA requests and breaking stories that other people won't break. So you want to find out about city-run drug, safe places to use your drugs. He doesn't care. He just goes in and spills the beans on stuff.
Yeah.
So it's nice that somebody's doing real journalism here in California.
I was about to say, so it's this journalism thing I've heard of before.
Yeah, well, he's pointing out that somebody went to Justice Kavanaugh's house with a knife and a gun, looking to harm people. He wasn't there to just have a conversation. he was looking to do some serious damage, and luckily they caught the idiot because he was kind of incompetent. But the people on The View were practically rubbing their grubby little hands and with glee over something like this because they figured that this guy deserves it. I still know people who think that he is like this bad, evil guy.
Gang rapist.
Yeah, who just did all of these things to women and got away with it because they only hear on Twitter the first part of it. They hear the first part of the story and they never hear the retraction or the follow-up. And that first part becomes truth. It just becomes internalized.
Emboldened by their watch of the Young Turks and David Pakman and Kyle Kalinske. And
Oh, no. The
Bosh.
people I'm talking about don't usually watch all that. Some of them will watch MSNBC, but I know people who get all of their news from
Older
outraged
normies,
Twitter.
right.
Outraged Twitter, that's where they get all of it. And what a place to get your news from.
Yeah, really. Like, how about you don't? How about you do that? How about you don't?
All
I
right.
could never understand people who only get it from one source. And I mean, and this is when I was a lot younger, so it was traditionally, newspapers or news television programs. They would only ever watch one channel's news. I'm like, I always found that weird because if I wanted to know something, I'd want to get it from as many sources as possible or as feasible. Like if I heard about something in the news, I would pick up 3 different newspapers and look at the different stories and see what's what, who's saying what.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of people who consider themselves to be not political, it's not that they don't have political opinions. It's just that they're not policy wonks. They don't read about politics. They don't care about politics. They just kind of put their finger in the wind and see where the people that they think are virtuous and smart, they just go along with. And it's a strategy, right? If you don't want to read about politics, you just go, oh, well, my favorite jazz musician or my favorite rock musician or my favorite country star believes a certain way, and I don't have time to do the reading, so I'll just go with whatever this person thinks. And there's a lot of people like that. It's kind of surprising to people like us who actually read the news all the time. A lot of people just can't be bothered. At least that's my observation.
No.
Well, I mean, some of the people I know, they aren't maybe wonks, but they do pay attention. But again, they only will watch MSNBC, or they will only watch CNN, or
I would say, Harry, that realization is not lost on both the mainstream media and the people who would seek to influence political opinion in the country, they realized that by influencing relatively unsophisticated people who may be famous and saying, hey, think about this question this way, they can get an amazing number of people, all of whom are voters, potentially voters, just because this famous person, just because Alec Baldwin believes something. There are people who will believe whatever Alec Baldwin tells them to believe. There are people who will believe whatever Hillary Clinton tells them to believe. They'll do it unquestioningly. They won't even look into it. They just, will adopt the same talking points and everything else. The people who are responsible for getting other people elected to office realize this and know that they can influence a lot of people, a lot of unsophisticated, let's say politically unsophisticated people instead of stupid people, which is the way I think of them. But the politically unsophisticated people simply by getting a famous person to publicly back this position or that. And I wouldn't be surprised if money changes hands sometimes in these occasions.
So they equate fame with legitimacy.
Absolutely.
Well, how they get their gravitas, I don't know. That's a good question, Functional. It's like, what is it fame or is it something
fame.
else? I don't think it's just that.
It's mystery that surrounds fame because people don't understand how people become famous.
I know in a lot of cases that is not
Magical.
the only part of sort of the influencer thing. There's
some of it. It's much more complex.
Well, I mean, sometimes it's more of you're selling an image, a product that's like as an image. It's an aspirational sort of thing. Sort of, if you do like I do and believe like I do, you will become like I am. That's part of what people sell. That's what a lot of these lifestyle bloggers have. I'm traveling alone through whatever part of the world, and it's some reasonably good-looking woman who has a selfie stick, and they just show her eating pictures of carbonara or whatever, and then going to the beach and living her best life. And it's a fantasy. She does pictures of her eating carbonara.
No, but you said she's eating pictures of carbonara, and I
Sorry.
was like, that would be amazing. Point me to this blogger.
That would be good. But
well, you'd have to liquefy it to get it in the pitchers.
Well, higher in
be
fiber than
more like
actual
drinking
carbonara.
Drinking pitchers of carbonara.
But I will listen to something Jonathan Turley says because he's what I consider to be a trusted expert. That doesn't mean that I close myself off from the opinions of all sorts of other people. If he says something really stupid, I'm going to hear about it. But there are people that I will accept.
People. You don't.
I'll accept
Joy
more.
Behar.
No.
And
anyway,
this is who listen to her and say, "Oh, Joy Behar says that." Those are the people I'm talking about, Harry. These
right.
Are
we all had to become our
unsophisticated
own.
people.
We all had to become medical experts recently, because we had people telling us things that didn't make any sense. Like, always don't worry about masks. Absolutely worry about masks. 3 masks, 4 masks. It's like, well, what is it? You're literally the same, short, angry person telling me that I have to listen to you, and you've contradicted yourself multiple times. So I guess the burden's on me to become an expert on whether wearing a mask is a thing, right?
I am science.
Please. It's all, I don't know what it is about these short men in government, whether it's Fauci.
it's the dwarven Robert Reichs. We need Prospero here to go on a proper Robert Reich.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Screw that guy.
Anyway.
Oh, we got lots of people in chat tonight. Hi, Addy. Oh,
hey, Addy.
Hotbox, Assassin, Elwin. Yeah, lots of people.
Man, she's serious
Cannibalistic
here.
Wizard. Yeah. Is that how you pronounce that?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, let's see. What were we doing? We were talking about this. I think we've talked about this enough. We've got so much show to talk about right now. I mean, it's a lot.
Too much shoe.
Let's see.
Really big shoe.
We're not going to watch that. I wanted to talk about the weather ever so slightly. This is not going to be a long thing about the weather.
That's right.
But the amount of drought that we're looking at has expanded to include a pretty big part of the country at this point. If you look at the drought outlook, this is it. Geodes, you've got privilege now because it rained on you enough. Don't even start with me. But,
if you look, there's more snow in the top part of the country. That's what I was talking about, Eric.
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, you get into the whole polar vortex stuff, but you've got like huge parts of the south that are developing drought.
Yeah, in the south it does make it drier.
What is Governor Stacey Abrams going to do about the drought problem?
Not a
Force
damn
everybody to
thing.
get electric cars, right? Is that how that
Told
works?
you I'm not talking about black holes tonight.
I know.
She says it's a Republican La Nina.
Yeah.
Hey, all I know is that it doesn't even come near my. It gets near my state and goes no. It just
No, but
stops.
you and Prospero are basically pretty lucky, and Sora,
good
but the
portion
rest
of the
of us are all
Carolinas.
suffering to one degree or another. I mean, this is a big deal.
Oh yeah.
Suffering
little-
builds character, Harry.
Yeah. Well, if you look at sort of the doom and gloom porn part of YouTube and the internet, there's a lot of people talking about how our economy is going to collapse because the barges can't get through the Mississippi. It's not quite that bad yet. But here's a little piece of video. I'm going to kill the audio. The audio's already killed. So the Mississippi is so low, they're finding things like sunken riverboats.
Ooh.
I mean, this is all
Cool.
supposed to be underwater.
Well, now they
this
can get
is-
that shit out of there.
Yeah, this is not even close to normal. This is just not the way
She's
things
a
are
ginger.
supposed
That's
to be.
not close to normal.
Yeah.
She says pretty hair. The Diamond Lady. That's cool. So that's totally haunted, right?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
totally.
absolutely.
So add that
Can I buy
to
one?
the list of.
There's a tree growing out of it.
But this is how
There
low
was
the water
somewhere,
is.
one of those things that they're in parts of the world that the water's so low, underground caves are opening up, and that's where like the angels of the apocalypse are said to be chained up. So now the world's going to be destroyed because of the drought.
I think you've
Oh,
been
there's
watching
two
too
of
much
them.
Supernatural.
Oh, there's twins.
Holy cow.
Oh, that's a newer boat because it had keep out on a metal door, so that's a newer
Yeah.
boat. It's not as old as
Yeah.
the ones I was expecting it to be because I wanted it to be old, like old.
No.
Well, the point
Damn.
is that drought is just terrible. I
Well,
really... This is not good. I mean, a lot of people... It's not just California now. It's a big chunk of the middle of the country.
Yeah, but it's California's fault because that's the point. It's always
Clearly, it's our
California's
fault.
It's always California's fault. Fuck
We're sorry.
Anyway, we don't have to spend a lot of time talking about the weather, but this is, I mean, economically, this is obviously significant. This is
I'm
because there's a lot of crops that get grown in that big swath down the middle of the country, and drought could actually be a problem.
I'm just glad to see that some of it's improving for people. Like,
Yeah.
at least at least there's brown and like the light tan in there,
For
so that means at
Sora.
least we're improving.
Yeah. Hey, it's
Keep polluting
raining.
the earth.
It's going to be raining in Central California, so drought's over. Yay!
Now, I'm
Okay.
sure that's what some Californians feel. Like,
Does
It's
anybody-
raining men.
Any comments or
Buffalo
questions
seems
about
bad.
this? I'm not sure there's
nah.
what we can do about the weather. It's not like it's going to change based on our opinions.
Gets that high
Well,
quality
maybe if we
H2O.
ask nicely.
All right, so let's see. This next thing mostly just makes me angry, so I'm going to go ahead and skip it because we actually need the time for other more interesting things. So, this is a thing, and I actually asked Sora to take a look at it. Exclusive: girl 14 with severe nut allergy nearly died aboard British Airlines flight after passenger refused to stop eating peanuts despite twice being told by cabin crew he was putting the teenager's life at risk.
Is
What
it
did you
cheap
find out
food?
about this story, Sora?
It's very, very unlikely that her anaphylaxis is anything to do with this guy. Mostly because the way when it comes to peanut allergy, it's you're allergic to the protein, and to be able to have an severe airborne allergic reaction like she had, your allergen has to be aerosoled. So things that can happen is usually cooked shellfish, where you're over the steaming pot of shellfish and you agitate the water. That has been studied, shown that you can actually have an allergic reaction to that. Peanuts don't get aerosoled. Even as peanut butter, that doesn't suddenly become airborne.
Not even peanut farts?
Not well, depends.
You
It
know
depends.
what?
Does it settle or circulate? Because that's the scientific method of changing this. That, according to my research, they did allergen studies on smashing peanut shells open, showed that you get peanut dust up, but the moment you stop smashing them, they settle, meaning that they don't actually circulate. So the particles are not light enough to circulate. So it's not going to be from this guy eating. Now he could just be a jerk, and I mean, you're in a small tin tube. You could have just said, "Fine, I'm not going to eat my peanuts until I land," or you can just say whatever and eat your peanuts, and now you're considered like the bad person because this poor girl had an attack. What's most likely that happened was they did not clean her seat properly because she touched peanut residue or other allergenic residue that's on her stuff, and that's what caused her reaction. Also, the likelihood of you having an allergic reaction because they don't circulate the air is also very low. Because so they went to Antigua. They were coming back to
There's the girl
London.
on the left, by the way.
She's alive.
Yeah.
She was frightened, but she's alive.
Here she is on
weren't so lucky.
vacation. Her life, her vacation-filled life was almost snuffed short by a guy 10 rows away eating a peanut.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
If the guy 10 rows away had concealed the peanuts and no one had noticed him eating the peanuts, would any of this have happened? The answer is no.
No.
The answer is
Not.
no. The answer is no.
So just to people, because peanut allergies are a really scary allergy, but from an article on livingallergic.com from 2014, so it's a little bit dated, but in here the doctor says that in the past, 5 studies in the past 10 years have addressed the concept of can you have an allergic reaction from someone opening a bag of peanuts on a plane? And the results, the one I think should calm most people down is close range exposure showed no reaction in severely reactive peanut allergic patients. And they consider close range to be 12 inches. So even within 12 inches of someone opening up a bag of peanuts on someone who's deathly allergic, had 0 reaction in that patient. So most likely, if you are in a situation, you either have ingested it directly from the food you've brought with you or the food you have been served, or you've touched residue. And I think it's most likely this. I know it's 2022 in the summer when this particular article. Oh, sorry. Let me share another one here with you there, Harry. I forgot to share this one. This is the one I'm referring to. Most likely they didn't properly. It's in the private chat. It's most likely that they didn't properly clean or sanitize the area. And knowing how bad things have been from the summer on, especially out of London, how people's luggage internationally, we've all seen how bad travel was. I don't think they took the time to properly clean the cabin. Is my 2 cents. Now, in the past, there has been incidents where a similar thing happened in a Ryanair flight where a man, where they've told there's a little girl, in this case it was a 4-year-old, who had an allergic reaction, and the guy was sitting not too far away from her eating peanuts after he was told not to. He was kicked off of Ryanair for 2 years, so he was banned from flying the airline. But even in that case, the doctor says that it's highly unlikely it's from there. They also talk about cabin circulation. Now, most likely, because it's British Airways and it's flying internationally, it's a Boeing aircraft. The Boeing air cabin filtration system is very, very robust. And more so, they have HEPA filters. They have every few minutes they are programmed to exchange air from outside inside. They have all sorts of stuff. So it's not like you're breathing in canned air that you left Antigua or London or whatever with. That's not what it's going to be, right? So it's basically conclusion. It's so highly unlikely. I don't think it is that what caused.
Well, my first thought actually is
Yes.
the same one that Elowen just talked about.
Yeah.
So there's two things. There could be the fact that she's been so traumatized about them that just the sight of it caused a psychological
and-
reaction.
No,
Probably
that's in the mother.
didn't help.
That's in the
Yeah.
mother.
Oh,
However,
it's all
they're-
about the mother.
Yeah.
It's all about the mother.
Well, the mother
One more
wasn't the
thing.
one that passed out and had to get 2 EpiPens, but there is also the possibility that they just want to get free airfare for like a year or something crazy.
Yeah.
That it's just a stunt. Sorry, go
No,
ahead, Sora.
I'm not convinced any of this happened.
Sorry.
The thing that I've noticed that seems to be maybe not from this particular story, not with this 14-year-old girl, but in a couple of other ones where I've been looking about kids having allergic reaction, whatever. It always says someone helped to administer the EpiPen. What the hell is the parents doing? How do you don't know how to use an EpiPen for your kid?
Mhm.
If your child needs to have an EpiPen, why are you asking for a healthcare professional on board the flight if, to help you administer that to your own child?
Yeah, and EpiPens are not
Which-
hard to use, last I heard. They're supposed to be,
Well,
the
they're
whole point of it, it's
color-coded.
easy, isn't it?
They're color coded.
Well, it's like
I can't
she's-
remember which way wait, but there's one end that you hit to the thigh, right? And it's so you don't pierce your finger. But it's so there's that one. And the only reasonable article I've come across was this one from a little while ago, from a couple years back, where basically an Australian woman had a pretty bad allergic reaction to something on the plane, and she thinks it's peanuts. And her kids were terrified, but and she had posted a picture online saying this is what it looks like to have an allergic reaction while you're, in the sky. But even she said, she's on the plane, says most likely this is coming because nobody cleaned properly, and I didn't clean my tray table. I didn't think to clean it because I relied on cleaning. So never do that. Always bring 3 EpiPens if you're severely allergic, and clean your area before you sit down, or ideally have a partner clean it so you don't touch the dirty tray table. And I think she's the only normal person because everybody else was panicked. And the thing is that if you are traveling with someone who's severely allergic, you can ask the airline to make an announcement to make sure they provide you proper food, and you bring stuff with you and all sorts of stuff, right? But you can't rely 100% on this. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, so it just yes, I agree, Frosted. But yeah, so this is just it's almost a nothing burger, but at the same time, I can understand there's so many people who are terrified of their nut allergy because you can die. And while researching this, I learned about delayed anaphylaxis, which is a thing that's terrifying, which is basically having you thinking you have passed or overcome the dangers, but things like an EpiPen was administered too late, and a little bit later on you start having horrific symptoms and you die. You know.
Well, whatever
or
you
your
do,
body
don't
didn't
read about
respond.
compartment syndrome, because that'll scare the crap out of you. You ever heard about compartment syndrome?
No.
No. You can look it up later. Everything's fine. Just got my arm smashed a little bit. I'll just walk it off. Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
That's what that is. I googled it. It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a
Also,
friend.
she's 14. At least in the States, I knew kids growing up who were young as 9 knew how to administer their own EpiPen. if they
Well,
had
there's
to.
other people in this this fine article who had sort of similar things happen. So there's this nice lady who's a 26-year-old electrical engineer. I may have cyberstalked her ever so slightly because I wanted to see what was the deal with this woman. She actually has actually worked as an electrical engineer, and she's actually on staff at a somewhat prestigious university in the United Kingdom. So she's not a complete I don't know what to say, but she is somebody with a little bit of technical background. And she's claiming that she ran into sort of similar sorts of problems with nut allergies aboard a plane. To my mind, this sort of falls in the same category as surstrumming. Somebody has a thing that on the plane is going to cause problems. Whether they're justified or not isn't the issue, but it's going to cause problems with other passengers, and maybe even in the wrong court district liability for the airline. To my mind, it just seems like, just why have something like that on the plane at all and serve it to people if it's just going to cause this much headache for them? I mean, what's the upside for the airlines? Are people really all that excited about eating airline peanuts? I mean, maybe they are. I don't know. I don't like peanuts, so maybe I'm the wrong person to ask.
It's the thing is, it's not about airlines. A lot of airlines no longer serve peanuts.
Okay.
I think it's more so people. A lot of airlines no longer serve food in economy, so people will bring snacks and their own meals from the airport or even from home, right? To some extent, but most likely they buy snacks and they serve peanuts in the airport. So you're beyond security, you're near the gate, you'll get peanut M&Ms, trail mix, roasted peanuts in a can, everything that you can get at a convenience store you'll find, right? So next step is, okay, ban all highly allergenic nuts in food preparation. But is it just entering a country? So then it becomes country specific, because you say you don't have the same food restrictions and laws and whatever in Saudi Arabia versus England, right? So then how are you going to police that? If people flying out of Saudi Arabia are able to have cashews in their food, but then they're landing in a place that says you cannot have nuts on board food, because you're going to bring allergens out of the place. It becomes, it's a whole, I wouldn't want to be the one organizing this. It's a mess. And then, okay, say you ban nuts from the airports. You can't purchase anything once you're past security with nuts that can potentially be carried on board. Well, then what about the food you can bring from home? Then are you going to ban any nuts? Well, it's easier to just say no food. You cannot bring any food unless you have a strict religious or dietary necessity that you have to have a special letter for. It becomes something like this. It makes everything worse. So this is all for 8% of the population or something like that.
Is it even that many?
I don't know, probably not.
Well, there are treatments for nut allergies, and maybe these people should get them.
You can get there's a lot of, but I mean, depending on where you are, it's either not covered by insurance or by your free health care. I know here, depending on how old you are, it may not be covered anymore, provincial-wise.
It's 1.2% of overall U.S. population has the peanut allergy.
Don't all lesbians have a nut allergy?
It's more of an aversion, but yeah.
It's a sensitivity, not a.
But okay, no, Harry, bad Harry, no.
Yeah. Stop it, Harry. Stop it.
Stop.
You
I was gonna
stop
say, never mind.
Stop it. You stop it. You behave yourself.
Sorry, I'm just having a little moment here. Okay. Anyway,
Giggity.
So we've got people who've got a disability, and being allergic to something to the point where it threatens your life, to me, sounds like a pretty good disability. So it's like the Americans with Disabilities Act. This is probably a good Skep question. So what does the ADA say about things? I know there's such a thing as reasonable accommodation, but in the case of something like this, is reasonable accommodation possible?
This is as the lawyers say, and I think Prospero would back me up, a pretty fertile area of the law. There's not a lot of precedent about this kind of law, and in terms of the harm, a person who's in a public conveyance has a reasonable expectation of safety. In other words, when an airline says we're going to fly people around the place, they take on the obligation of what's called a warranty of merchantability. Sorry about the lecture here, but it's really important. What it means is that you can take certain things for granted. This thing is not going to suddenly kill you. You have a reasonable expectation of certain things that for you to accept liability, you have to release the person who's offering the service from liability, and that's what legal releases are for. So, like when you go skydiving, you sign a release at the drop zone saying that, hey, if the plane fails, the drop zone's not liable for your death. If the plane loses its engine at 200 feet, and you all go down in a ball of gasoline infused flame, but so you can release them from liability, but there's a reasonable assumption on the part of the passengers on an airplane that they will be conveyed safely, that someone's not going to come up and set them on fire, somebody's not going to come up and stab them in the eye, someone is not going to assault them with some sort of chemical that hurts them, like peanut proteins. Now, the problem is when may it be reasonably foreseen that someone doing something could result in that? And that's the part that will fail, in my opinion, with tort law right now, because it can't be the guy who's eating the peanuts cannot reasonably foresee that there is someone who is so sensitive to this that, contrary to all published research and everything else, they can be affected by him eating peanuts 10 rows away. I don't think there's I don't think any court in the country would grant a tort on that.
I didn't think they were going to give $1 billion to Alex Jones over over his ridiculous statements about Sandy.
That was a completely political trial. That's tort law gone crazy, and where you get to publicly crucify somebody who is generally not liked by a large part of the population. That's all that happened there.
Yeah. Well, speaking of things that happened, this is a thing that happened. Docs show Facebook and Twitter closely collaborating with Department of Homeland Security, FBI, to police disinfo. Plans to expand censorship on topics like withdrawal from Afghanistan, origins of COVID info that undermines trust in financial institutions. Yeah, we wouldn't want people creating a run on the banks, right? That would be that would be bad. On the one hand, I think it's easy to lose track of the fact that as consumers, right, we pay for things to be filtered all the time. You don't just gladly accept all the spam that comes your way. Somebody actually uses technology to filter a lot of that crap out. They give you tools to filter stuff. So when it comes to stuff like disinformation, there is disinformation. If I was going to be getting my news from somewhere, I would sort of like to know that it's probably not just full of stuff that people have injected into the news cycle. On the other hand, I don't want the government having the ability to censor the news, nor do I want them jawboning and coercing private businesses to do it on their behalf. Okay, just to be clear. But the whole thing about disinformation is we actually need good systems for helping people navigate through the sea of disinformation. That's not the same thing as so there is sort of like kind of an argument you could make for a justifiable reason why these conversations might be taking place. But that's not what this is. This is probably just evil and horrible. I mean, I'm just imagining what somebody who thinks this is a good idea might think. This is me playing devil's advocate, and I'm really having to strain to come up with this as being a good thing. This sounds mostly terrible, and I'm glad that the Twitter under Musk has actually started fact-checking the White House for real. That's just beautiful.
May a thousand flowers bloom.
Who other than Skep just made a noise?
Oh, that was me. Yeah, I just said, yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where corporations, unfortunately, especially corporations involving any like information distribution, seem to have a very bad habit of this. And I mean, it's great to see that now that the company's been bought, that a lot of this is kind of being a lot of this info is kind of coming up now and being published. But it's just like, yeah, I mean, we already knew this was going on. It's just now we have more official records of it. So
yeah, because 10 years ago it was just a slippery slope fallacy. It was just conspiracy theory. Today it's the truth.
Yep.
Yeah, The Intercept has a pretty good article about this nonsense. I put the link in the chat for people to take a look at later.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think we're all pretty much on board with the free speech thing. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily mind a thing that says there's a likelihood that sort of gave me some sort of visual indicator about the supposed trustworthiness or whether a source has been vetted or not. I mean, I think that could be valuable in some circumstances, but that's the extent of it. Like with email, you should have the ability to turn your spam filter off. If you find that your spam filter is getting rid of a bunch of mail that you actually want to receive, and you'd rather just get lots of spam about random crap, or let you talk about which categories of things you want to filter, those are good tools. And I think that Elon is going to probably, maybe this is more wishful thinking, make Twitter into a much better platform by giving people tools to decide what types of things they get, rather than Twitter deciding for you what you're going to get.
Well, that's the key thing, is it's the individual choice versus somebody's choice for you. Because I know all three email providers I use, I can look in the spam folder. It usually keeps it there for like 30 days before it just gets rid of it completely. So yeah, if I don't want to turn it off, but I want to check it every once in a while, I can do that. I have that choice. Or if I wanted to, I can choose to delete it after 24 hours, whatever. It doesn't matter. But like you were saying, the end choice is mine. It's not Google's or Proton Mail. It's my choice.
Right. You know, it can be something as simple as, I don't want to have any mail sent to me that contains the following list of words. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. But filters go far beyond that. The way that mail filters work is actually pretty interesting, but we don't have time for that right now.
It is, actually.
I just don't want one of those filters on my Facebook or Twitter or YouTube feeds.
Well,
if they want to use the algorithm to suggest near content, again, that's a tool I would like to have more control over.
Mm-hmm.
Which you kind of do, because if I watch a lot of Warhamster videos, I'm going to get recommendations for other Warhamster channels. But when you go over to like the news, if I watch a lot of, Tucker videos, I'm not getting more Ben Shapiro's, Tucker's, Andrew Klavan's. I'm getting the Young Turks. I'm getting MSNPC. And it's like, wait, what? Yes, I understand that they're still under the same umbrella of political commentary, but that's kind of where the similarities end. They're nothing alike.
Yeah, well, when I watch stuff on YouTube, I have autoplay turned on. So I'll be doing something while I'm listening to YouTube, because I use it sort of like I used to use talk radio. And then a thing will end, and then I'll suddenly hear a Brandenburg concerto. It's like, oh, they're going to play the Hoover Institute again. And then it's always the same video. It's always Bjorn Lundberg talking about climate alarmism.
Yeah.
Hermit
and it-
alarmism.
So for some reason, whenever they suggest a video to me, it's almost always the same video. And it's I don't know. Maybe YouTube has decided I really need to hear that again.
That's really weird.
But it almost never tries to suggest something to me that's just ridiculous MSNBC nonsense. It almost always gives me stuff that sort of agrees with my point of view, which is not necessarily what I want either. So if something happens on the Hill and that new African-American lady, new-ish, starts spouting some sort of bullshit, that'll end up in my feed. So, I mean, it's not like nothing different kind of creeps its way in, but YouTube does a pretty good job of giving me more of what I've already looked at. I don't remember a name.
Okay. Is it on the Hill or is it on
On the Hill, yeah.
It's on the Hill.
Truthfully, I would like it if Elon did we have verified this source is this source. Like, we have verified this person is this person badge, and then blue check mark, and that's all it does. It doesn't give you the ability to delete anything or anything like that. And then, do the stuff that they said. And then there's also the blue check mark, which you can buy.
But, I mean, if we're treating this as the public town square, which it still debatably, and in my opinion, certainly is not, but it does have influence, then why do we need any of those checks and balances at all? Because this is a communications platform. There are going to be people who will say, oh, well, okay, on this video here, this a midget of a doctor said this, but, and here's the
Angry
link.
midget.
I'm going to,
Angry
midget, murder
Angry
midget. I'm going to post these 3 links from 3 other peer-reviewed documents. Take of it what you will, but these are in complete counter to what was just said in this post by this angry midget.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're letting the discussion, and then again on the individual level, you can say, you know what, I think I like the information in these peer-reviewed papers that this gentleman or woman or fed or woman posted, and it seems a little bit more legitimate. I'm leaning that way. Thank you. And then maybe somebody posts something else. But the point is, it's communication. I don't think the tool should be doing any sort of fact checking at all.
I'm not talking about fact checking. I'm talking about the only thing it says is that this is the Washington Post. So we know this is actually the Washington Post. Yeah, this is actually the Washington Post.
WAPO is actually the Washington Post.
Yeah,
just verify the
the
person who actually published the information.
Yes.
That's fine.
No, I'm totally down with that.
Give me tools.
That's what I want. Yeah,
just give me tools.
And give me the ability to go, I don't think this person is who they say they are. I think they may have gotten, they claim they were Washington Post and tricked one of your people who was behind the scenes. Let me say, hey, can you double check this? And maybe that. I don't want it to be used as a tool, used as a weapon against anybody, but tell me who's from MSNBC, and maybe they have a badge next to their name saying that this is a person who has been verified working for MSNBC or something like that, because it's you see so many people impersonate other people and they still have a blue check mark, or they make it look like they have a blue check mark, and then just shit gets spread everywhere, and then it's not actually the person, and you could have someone's entire livelihood destroyed because someone impersonated them, or a newspaper, or a small town paper, or a local news network, or something like that. Because we all know the trolls will fucking do it. They'll do it just to do it. It doesn't matter political affiliation. They'll do it because they can. That's all I want. If you want to pay for it, you get a blue check mark. If you're paying for it and you're the Washington Post or the New York Times or the Chicago Sun or whatever, you get this badge. And then that way I can go, not going to listen to a fucking word you say, and goodbye. That kind of thing.
Real quick, I'm going to have to hop off, so I will talk to you all later.
Well, thanks for
Good
showing
night.
up.
Illington.
Yeah, I'll do.
Good luck on your search for better internet.
I'll try. All right.
I'll talk to you offline later, man. Bye.
All right, we'll see you later, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So, yeah, the people at MSNBC are very salty about Elon Musk taking over Twitter. So here they are basically trying to blame, Elon Musk tweets conspiracy theory about Pelosi attack just before deleting it. Well, there is a lot of interesting stuff going on.
Yeah, but you're not.
And it's not like
right
it's not like
demon is he? Jeez.
Well, it's not like your parent company, NBC, didn't publish a thing talking about Pelosi that they retracted almost immediately, too. So people say things and then they retract them. If it's good enough for your parent company, why isn't it good enough for Elon? Oh, wait, double standard, right?
It's not allowed.
Yeah. Just days
But
after
that's-
Elon Musk assured advertisers that Twitter would not become a free-for-all hellscape, the social media site was swamped with an outpouring of racist, sexist, and anti-Semitic posts, along with election disinformation and bizarre conspiracy theories. The ugliest of these conspiracies were amplified by Musk himself.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
if you can tell they've never been on Twitter because they're like, that just started happening. It's like, no, it didn't.
This is so.
That is
another
Twitter.
day on Twitter.
This
Yeah,
is
that is
well, there were
true.
some people that were testing the limits of
Oh,
what
yeah.
the new free speech was, but this is so beautiful, so buzzword compliant. The Anti-Defamation League. Ooh, I'm sure you couldn't get the Southern Poverty Law Center to kick in their opinion too. Reported that an anonymous post on 4chan instructed followers to disseminate anti-Semitic content on Twitter following Musk's takeover. The post, the ADL tweeted, was shared almost immediately in several extremist Telegram channels. Again, I'm
Oh,
just
no,
quaking in my
Telegram.
boots. It's just the worst. The dawn of the Musk era was also celebrated by MAGA conspiracy theorists and election deniers who used the occasion to push out disinformation about vaccines and gleefully promoted gross anti-gender talking points. But the real test of the new Musk regime came with the violent attack on... I can't do this anymore. I'm getting dumber just looking at this page. They're just so full of crap. It's just so much partisan spin. Because even when you read Fox News, they'll occasionally have, I don't know, that that woman with the dark hair who used to be a pollster, or Juan Williams, or somebody will say something.
The one with the gravelly voice, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the scratchy voice.
Well, I'm glad you said
Scratchy
it. With
voice
my
liberal.
Kermit voice, I can't really criticize anybody else's voice. But you understand what I'm trying to say. I've been looking more at MSNBC's front page, and it's
You get
just
nothing but left, all solid left. All the
it's so. I mean, it's clearly
nothing but
more
lies.
spun than even Fox News. Fox News is spun, but
Oh,
not
yeah.
like this. I mean, this is really, really just propaganda.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
so
It
bad.
absolutely. Yeah, it's the propaganda
look at-
arm of the Democratic Party.
Look at the
like I said at the top of the show, like I look now, I literally look to MSNBC, see what they say about a story, and immediately know that that's not the truth.
yeah. The open, unabashed rise of anti-Semitism from leading figures on the right. Yeah, because right, Skep, isn't the right the one that usually has the anti-Semitic bias? I mean, that's how it worked in England, right? It was
Well,
the Tories that were the anti-Semites, weren't they? No, it was the Labour Party.
Until the Corbynistas, well, and really all of Labor began to come in, and that was just resentment against the moneyed interest, which they perceived as Jewish. And
Robert Byrd was
voila.
a Republican, wasn't he? Wasn't he, Skep? Wasn't Robert Byrd a Republican?
Yeah, he was
Yeah, totally.
totally
he wasn't.
Republican, and he
wasn't.
totally wasn't in the Klan. He totally wasn't in the Klan. We're reinventing truth here at MSNBC. No, he was a Democrat. He was what was he, a Kleagle?
He was one of those racist Dixiecrat nitwit Democrat guys.
But he was a Grand Kleagle. He was in charge of their recruiting. That's what the Kleagle does in the Klan. He was in charge of recruiting new members for.
And Hillary
the
Clinton
Klan.
said that he publicly stated that he was a mentor to her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Taught her everything she knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like Joe says that Hunter's the smartest guy he knows.
Oh God.
Anyway, I'm depressing myself. Does
Point of
anybody want to
personal
talk more
privilege.
about this topic?
Joe Biden needs to get out
Point
more and mentor people.
Point of personal privilege.
Point of
In my lived experience in the online world, this is just since going back as far as the implementation of the mainstream internet, I see anti-Semitism and it on the receiving end of it, but it's not. It doesn't seem to lean one way or the other on the political compass, but it is in how they say what they're saying. In that the left is more the big, like there's a lot more of the like bigotry of low expectations, the poor Jew, we need to protect you, and it's like, what? No, fuck off. And the other side, it's more like stuff like what Kanye has gotten in the mix for, and saying, oh well, the Jews own Hollywood. It's like, well, yes and no. I don't own Hollywood. Do people who own Hollywood, are they Jewish? Yeah.
Don't you
Okay,
get a check? Don't you get a check, Functional?
Yeah, where's
is there
my movie check?
Is there like a
we
fund?
Need to get paid over here, right, Serenity? Oh, she's probably dog.
She's dealing with dogs.
We need to get our movie checks, and that's where I think we should start come together as the tribe and start getting our reparations from Hollywood.
The only religious prejudice that I've ever really seen in my life was anti-Catholic. I've seen some of that, and I haven't seen that in decades.
No, I see some
in
of
terms
that.
of
what about what the Scientologists are suffering now?
Well, they're poor Scientologists, but the as far as like anti-Semitic sort of stuff, I see some of it from sort of higher, I don't know, class strata. I'm not really sure what the right word is to say here. I'm going to be kind of careful saying things about lower class Jews. I've seen prejudice from higher class Jews to lower class Jews. I've seen that happen more than a few times, but that happens in a lot of groups. That's an in-group thing.
That doesn't have anything to do with Jews. That doesn't have anything to do with, that has to do with money. It has to do with resources.
I do see some, and I use this term very loosely, bigotry towards the Catholicism on the broader scale. But it's not really bigotry. It's anti-theists who.
No, it's bigotry. The stuff I've seen.
No. I'm just talking about what I witness currently. Is that there is, and it's. Oh well, you're just being anti-Catholic. Well, no, they're actually just saying, like, if you, the person he's talking to, were a Muslim, he would probably be saying the same things, but replacing Jesus with Muhammad and all this, and slightly altering some of the attack points, if you will. But I do still see it, Harry. I do still see that there is some sort of animus there. I think it just has to do more with the fact that it's a predominantly Christian country.
If somebody could show me, like a speaker at CPAC who was received well, who said something that was genuinely anti-Semitic, I would take notice.
Yeah.
But these sort of vague, these sort of vague things feel a lot more like projection. The MSNBC talking about the anti-Semitism problem on the right. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I don't think it's institutional or structural. And as far as I can tell, it's not a problem. And if it is a problem, you point out the instance of it, and if it's real, I will support you in dealing with whoever does that. But if you don't have proof, shut up.
Well, the perpetrators have moved on to Asian ladies, so.
Sorry, go ahead, Skep.
I was just going to say, if it ever came out that the right said something just unequivocally anti-Semitic, MSNBC would not let up on that. Yeah. It would be on blast. It would be on loop. Yeah.
It would be on the Chiron while they talked about everything else.
Yeah.
Sorry,
exactly. It would be on the Chiron. Exactly right.
Because the left, air quotes here, these people have blurred the lines of what these words mean. They've been slowly and methodically changing the language we use so that something that would have been considered racist is now broader encompassing. Something like anti-Semitism is a wide, like, again, pointing at, it's just big, it's in the news, I'm just using it as the Kanye thing, saying that is not anti-Semitic. I look at that as, again, I'm of Jewish descent. I'm looking at that and going, yeah, Epstein, not Epstein, sorry, Weinstein, MGM, Universal, a lot of the bigwigs up there, I think it's like way disproportionately 90% of all these executives of all these major Hollywood firms happen to be Jewish. Where's the lie? Where's the bigotry? There is no bigotry there. Now, if he came out and said, and they're all evil, baby raping, blood guzzling Satanists because of the fact that they're Jewish, then I'd be like, whoa, Kanye, what are you doing? That would
So
be
are a lot of doctors and lawyers. You know,
it's just a matter of fact. Well, and it's just like saying, well, the NBA is 95% black.
yeah. In a free society, people self-select for certain types of things, and some groups will be overrepresented in some professions. I'm pretty sure Moyles, almost all of those are Jewish. You know, there's like this whole tradition of you know, certain types of Jewish sects being in the diamond trade and all sorts of other things. I'm not losing any sleep over it. It's just kind of silly. But
that's where the overweight lesbian Moyles.
I know.
Where are they?
Culturally Jewish Moyles, but not practicing.
Yeah,
So let's see. I don't know. It
Well,
looks like some kind of Torah.
I mean, that's another thing. Is it culturally Jews, or are they, excuse me, are they Ashkenazi Jews, which we've found, sorry, I don't know why.
You need to seek some of that
Are
free
you talking
Jew-
about the population of Ashkenazi Jews that hogs all the Nobel Prizes?
Yeah.
Yes, them. Well, I mean, there is a difference culturally versus ethnically, which scientists, geneticists determine there is a small variation from the standard Caucasoidal gene that, you know, produced the Ashkenazi line. And when they talk about anti-Semitism, or when they refer to things, is it when they say, "Oh, the Jews"? Well, is it the cultural institution of Judaism? Is it the religion of Judaism? Is it the Ashkenazis? I mean, like,
Well, I mean, you're in very dangerous territory here.
I probably should stop it.
Because when you start talking about average intelligence of groups, I mean, first of all, these things change when quality of living changes. Like if you take people from certain areas where the average IQ is very low and you move them to a place where they get adequate protein and stimulation and things when their brains are developing, a lot of those differences disappear. So you can't just chalk them up. Yeah, you can't just. You have to be very careful with genetic and epigenetic arguments about these sorts of things. So, and I'm not really an expert about that, but if you also take a bunch of people that are very, very smart and cause trouble, and you send them off to a place that's very, very cold with long winters, canoodling will occur, and they will. You will end up selecting for a group of very, very smart people. So there are things that happen that are complicated. I'm going full Tim Pool on this. It's complicated. But there are groups of people that do extremely well, little pockets of them, like Nigerians who emigrate to the U.S. are extremely successful.
Very industrious, yeah.
Very industrious, very hardworking, and very bright.
They're given that rope and they hoist themselves right
So
up.
yeah, you want to be careful with the big paintbrush. So
yes, but I can still say kike because I'm one of them. I'm taking it
yeah,
back.
well, that's just you're just going to own it. You're going to go for the empowerment. All right.
I was hoping that would just kill the segment.
I don't know how we ended up on this thing. So for my Canadian friends, I don't know if Sora's back yet.
I'm here.
Okay, does this look at all familiar to you? The Journalism Competition and Preservation Act will produce neither competition nor preservation. Essentially, it's the same kind of crap they've been trying to pull in your country and in the EU.
Yep.
We're trying to essentially protect journalism by adding things like link taxes and that sort of nonsense.
Oh yeah, pay to play.
And what this is effectively going to do is it's going to really put their thumb on the scale for large media companies versus the small independents trying to get started, because it places a huge burden on the small news producers trying to break into the market. So effectively, it stops a lot of competition, and it's also just going to make it very hard to have a discussion when you can't say, well, where did you get this information from? Over here. Yeah, that just ends. I mean, imagine what this show would look like if we couldn't actually talk about what's in the news. It would be short.
You'd be like 20
We would need
minutes.
we'd need a different show.
Need. End of the world.
Yeah, we could just, I don't know. I'm sure we'd find something, but it would be particularly terrible. No, this is, there's a bunch of this crap, and they're trying to sneak it into like big omnibus bills where somebody won't notice it. It's not like they're actually debating this. They
And
wait
this is
for the
yours,
government
right?
to run out of money, and then they shove this crap in there with a bunch of other
That's it.
stuff.
Boy,
The
you definitely
JCPA
have
is American, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because, like you said, up here there have been Bill C-67, 69, most recently C-11. Funny enough, C-67 is where the whole Jordan Peterson phenomenon came from because of the compelled speech. So to me, it's in Canada at least, it's not that much of a threat other than it's just a reminder to keep vigilant, to keep pressure on your representatives to say no to this shit. And luckily, so far, it's been paying off, and our elected officials have been saying no, which is good because, I mean, at the end of the day, it is all just pay to play. It's just more taxation to the government, but this is for telecom on the internet to, if you're the CBC or City TV or any of these Canadian corporations, you can now pay this $50,000 a year license fee or whatever, and you have unfettered access. But then to the layman, if I started my own YouTube channel and just talking, I'll get to that in a second. C16, thank you. Dude, they're just all freaking numbers. I can never keep them straight. And but thank you for the clarification. C16. So pay to play. Me as, want to start my own YouTube channel and start doing my own news program, I'm not going to be able to afford $50,000 a year for this licensing fee.
No.
And that is the ultimate goal, is to censor without direct censorship. They want to just make it completely untenable for
They're
the
raising
average
the
person.
entry barriers.
Yes.
Yeah.
The average person, or the people that they don't like, that they don't want to allow into this space, that they don't like Rebel News or whatever up here.
It's gatekeeping.
No, it totally is. And it's just circumventing the already established legal mindset of, no, you can't censor people and you can't discriminate people based on their race, ethnicity, religion, marital status, blah, 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 all these other things that are
We'll
supposed
find
to be
something we
codified.
can discriminate on.
Yeah.
What's your
We'll just
carbon?
make it
What's your
a tax,
carbon
a
footprint
license.
look like? Your carbon footprint's looking particularly bad. Maybe
Yeah.
the
You said some
degree to
things on
which
Facebook.
the degree to which your tweets should be shared should be inversely proportional to your carbon footprint. Have you ever thought of that?
Oh, God. Shove my carbon footprint up their smokestack.
So we haven't been afraid enough recently. So let's hear about how we're all doomed again, but not all of us, just the children. Won't somebody think of the children? Let's actually unmute
Audio.
that.
Vaccine for
Aha,
RSV. Today,
you guys sit
Pfizer
there.
says
Is it working?
Yes.
Okay.
they're
Play.
working for decades to develop a vaccine for RSV. Today, Pfizer says its RSV vaccine is safe for pregnant women and effective in helping to protect their newborn babies.
Aren't you
Just
relieved?
like thalidomide was.
And Circle of Health reporter Denise Sador is here live with the very latest.
Just a
Denise.
flipper
Well, you know,
baby.
Janet, this
RSVP
all
for
over Southern
a
California
shot
dealing
today.
with the virus is affecting mainly children. News of a potential RSV vaccine offers hope on the horizon. This as pediatric cases start to skyrocket in LA County. Flu
Yeah,
and RSV cases
poor
were
children.
practically
Not the
non-existent
flu!
in the past 2 winters. Now,
What's
LA
wrong
County
with
health
her
officials
eyes?
report we're getting an early and fast start.
We've surpassed the 5%
Heavy
threshold,
fake
and the amount of
lashes.
influenza.
Yeah. So So there's a virus that's a respiratory virus that affects a lot of children and is occasionally serious. Now, I'm not trying to make light of sick children or sick children very, very rarely dying. But isn't it convenient that Pfizer's been working on this? Apparently, they had a vaccine for this back in the 1960s, and they tested it, but it didn't go well. Not quite as poorly as some of the tests of polio vaccines did, where they gave a few hundred people polio. But it didn't go well to the point where it's been 60 years before they thought they'd give this a try again. The problem is that if before the pandemic, a lot of people would have heard this news and thought, oh, great, there's a thing that might keep my kid from dying. But now we've got serious, I mean, all of us have serious trust issues to one degree or another. And as soon as you hear Pfizer has a cure for some vaccine, isn't it hard not to be hypercritical about this?
You tend to
I mean,
go
to
full
just-
functional.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing is that what they do more and more is that, like you said, let's scare people, right? Because at the end
That's
of the
good
day,
marketing.
that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to say, well, don't you want to keep your unborn baby? You should get this vaccine. Oops, it killed your unborn baby. And speculation and using that for hyperbole. Thank you, Susan. Well, that's too bad. That's not their problem. It was your choice to make. Well, was it? If you are uneducated, they don't know how to read, you don't know how to look up and read things on the internet, and you just got scared and want to protect yourself and your kid, you know. Yeah.
Well, I
I'm
mean,
kinda
that's the
sick of
thing.
this.
I don't know if they have this similar thing down in the States, but up here, Sora, we have like positions of trust in the legal mind frame. So teachers, police, doctors, etc., who are supposed to be held to a higher standard, so that when they say, "Oh, this is fully functional," that when somebody says something is safe or what have you, then there is that level that's supposed to be that standard. But yeah, like Harry says, there's this now niggling feeling at the back of it, even the most trusting of people's minds, that and this I think could be a positive. Maybe I should do a little bit more reading on what the RSV vaccine's history of development and what kind of literature has been presented, that maybe I can be a little bit more, because I'm not anti-vax. Like if I had a kid today, I would get them their MMR and their polio vaccine and all this.
Yeah, watching a kid die of whooping cough, that's
Not
not
fun.
that's not anything anybody wants to see.
And I know that RSV, yes, it has come up as something that can seriously impact children. So it's something I would be invested in as a potential parent, to say, okay, I really want to save my kid's life and save them this potential end of life sort of situation. At worst case, best case, a very bad influenza-like illness. I would still want to look it up a little bit more and be a little less trusting that, oh, Pfizer said it's okay. Well, Pfizer told my doctor. Never mind. I'm not going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. Nurse Hotbox says that her daughter already got it. I'm assuming gender. Sorry, Nurse Hotbox. But yeah, I don't know what country you're in, so maybe this is only in the U.S. that it's just becoming available, or it's hard to say. But Pfizer, the thing that Skep will verify, which he's done many times, is that the drug companies really aren't all that interested in you as anything other than a customer.
That's absolutely right.
Oh yeah,
absolutely correct.
So trusting them to have your best interest at heart is not necessarily a good idea, any more so than you would trust the Ford dealer selling you a Pinto to care about whether the gas tank explodes. That's just,
they do.
Everybody
care
has
about
a
it,
job.
They don't want to go broke fixing it.
Right. Well, everybody has a job in this system, right? Their job is to come up with new things, and our job is to be informed consumers and e caveat emptor. And we know now, I mean, whatever naivete we had about this topic should all be pretty much gone. I know there's some people that basically just bought the big pharma Kool-Aid and they can't be reasoned with. But I think that informed skepticism is probably a good strategy, especially when we're talking about just giving vaccines to kids. Because you have a duty of care to that kid. They're not making the decision for themselves. You're making a decision for somebody else. So it's incumbent on the parents, in my opinion, to do the necessary research to feel like they're making an informed choice for that kid.
Right.
Sorry, I'm being a little preachy tonight.
Well, no. Pfizer is not like Johnson & Johnson, Upjohn, big makers of over-the-counter things where they have to have a big, OTC marketing arm, which is a completely different sale than selling ethical pharmaceuticals, the things that doctors write a prescription for. It's a completely different sell selling Visine, you know, or one-a-day vitamins, as opposed to you know, doxycycline or, you know, vincristine. You know, it's Pfizer doesn't. It's not evil. It doesn't care. Pfizer doesn't care. Pfizer makes things that it thinks it can exchange for dollars. That's basically what motivates that company. Everything in Pfizer is about preserving the company, putting aside money for future development. They really do put aside amazing amounts of money for R&D that they know is going to flop about 60% of the time. About 60% of the work, of the research work done at Pfizer, and Pfizer is one of the best, is throwaway. 60% is thrown away. It's done. I'm talking about money spent on research. It's spent on drugs that didn't pan out, drugs that made it almost all the way through, drugs that they maybe have $50 million invested in, and in the second to last trial before it gets an indication from the FDA, it fucks up, it fails, it shows something that's potentially bad, puts it back 10 years, and you know, the worthies at Pfizer get together and say, hey, we can't continue to develop that because we're going to have other competitive drugs. And as a result, you get 3 or 4 years where certain syndromes or diseases aren't treated at all because Pfizer gives up on a drug that was 70% of the way there because they know in 2 years Park Davis is going to have something that's better. And so nobody gets anything for 2 years. That's the kind of problem that they try and address, you know, at Pfizer. Pfizer isn't immoral. I get so mad at people. It's amoral. They don't care. They really don't care. They don't have a corporate conscience. They don't feel any duty to have some moral message. They just want to sell pharmaceutical drugs. Period. Dot. End of story. And they want to be there tomorrow. They want to manage their money and their opportunities in a way that will, you know, make the company successful. Their motivations really, truly are pretty pure, but they're utterly capitalistic.
I don't know if I would agree, because in my personal opinion, I believe that the healthcare industry should adhere to the Hippocratic Oath and notions, but they don't because they're not really
Have you
healthcare
known
providers.
any of
They're
the, have you
they're drug
known any of
developers.
the senior executives at Pfizer?
No.
I do.
Do I need
know,
to?
Yeah, I have known them. I can state personally and know them well enough to guarantee you that they don't think that way. They truly
Think what way?
think in anything other than a pure capitalistic return on investment.
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you on that.
Oh, okay.
But I think
thought you
that
disagreed.
inherently isn't good or bad, but I think in the industry that they're in, it is a bad. And that's just my personal opinion. I'm not, you know, and I mean, you say, like, do you know any of them? And it's like, well, I don't have to know them personally to see that the actions of a company don't vibe with my personal ethics. And again, I want to stress heavily, these are my personal ethics. As far as what the medical industry as a whole should be, and I'm not deluded enough to think that otherwise, because I know that it is that way, Skep. I know that they just want to make money, and that is in that sense, that is very pure.
Well, plus you're Canadian, and I still haven't relentlessly dragged you to the economic right far enough yet. So, but I have to keep working on you as my friend. It's going to take a while.
Economically, I am pretty right. I am pretty conservative. I do
what I can.
I like a social safety net. I like the fact that a tribe comes together to protect, but obviously government muddies the waters way too much, and I want to be smart enough to think of a way to circumvent government and make things work, but I'm not. I'm just some dumbass on the internet, you know. Like,
but that's a very libertarian sensibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I want to move on
I'm a
to the
very
next thing just because
complex
we have
Okay,
so much
sorry.
show and we have only half an
Yeah.
hour left. So Serenity is back, maybe? Don't know. Sora's back though. She's just muted.
Oh no, I'm back too. I was just
Okay. So this is for the two of you because
I was running around.
I know you guys like your cute animals, right? So
Yes.
let's why is
Is that a
everything-
bear?
it's a black bear. Oh boy.
Hi, cutie.
He's such a cutie. He's just a teen.
Why is so cute?
Oh
Until he
shit!
comes to the
Oh,
gate and
shit.
rips her head off.
Well,
All fun and games.
he's like, why are
One
you
step.
running? You invited me. You think
Why
I'm
are you
cute?
running?
If you see a black bear, they take one step. You turn and bolt.
Also, for you animal lovers, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that baby hippo biting that person's leg.
Oh, num 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 num.
Animals are
Just
dicks.
nuzzling.
They're just
No,
dicks.
you let that baby hippo bite you.
No.
You know,
You
hippos
let that
kill
baby
a lot
hippo
of
eat
fucking
you.
people.
Teeth like razors.
That's
well,
okay.
not the baby at least. Thank
Baby
God.
vegan murder river cow.
Look at you, look
Yeah.
at his face. I think
He's
it's a
like, I
pygmy
go
hippo.
num num. I
I
go
think it's a
num num.
pygmy baby.
I'm num 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 num. I'm num 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 num.
So,
Animalistic
a brief,
Wizard makes a good point, Harry. I'm just-
yeah, which is where I don't have a half hour left. You can go as long as you want. Yes, that's true.
See, the chat is egging us on. Let's have a
Can I
good
take
time.
that
Hey,
lying down? That's
I just
like
want-
a challenge.
I just want. Hey, I mean, we're on the right on the best coast, right, Sora? So we're fine. I just worry about
Oh, yeah.
those of you that are 3 hours ahead.
How do I eat
Me?
a human? One bite at a time.
Damn right.
Exactly.
No.
So this is terrible.
Oh.
Wasp Stealer stings Python developers in supply chain attack. Let me tell you a little story. So what? There are these things. There are these things that Python, developers who use the Python computer language
Okay,
do.
we're not talking about noodles.
Yeah, we're not
Danger
talking about
noodles.
danger noodles. We're not talking about actual danger noodles.
No. We're talking about Python, the computer language.
Yeah.
Named after Monty Python by, was it Wall? What was his first name? Skep.
Wally.
Oh, the
Last
guy
name
who-
Wall.
I
Yeah.
can't remember his name.
Doesn't matter. But you know what I mean.
Old. Yep.
But it was like a dude who came up with a computer language named after Monty Python. It's called Python.
Van
A
Rossum.
lot of stuff is written in Python.
Van Rossum,
So-
it looks like Guido Van Rossum.
Oh really? Oh, who's
What
the
it
guy
says.
I'm thinking of? Oh, I'm
think
thinking
it's
of
Guido.
I'm thinking of Perl. I'm thinking of Perl.
Ah,
Never
yeah,
mind.
no,
Python.
The great Google says it was Guido von Rossum.
Well, I wouldn't want to spread disinformation, Susan.
That's what
Okay.
being good.
So what they've been doing is putting packages
Larry
into this big
Wall. That's who you're thinking of.
Yeah,
Larry
into this
Wall.
big online repository where basically people want to add functionality to their programs. They go to this big library, they pull things down. Well, some people got clever to the fact that all they really had to do was just upload things into that library that had names that people would use by accident. So they came up with malicious code and gave it the name of something that's spelled almost like something legitimate. And so that if somebody had a typo in their code and went to import this bit of code from this library, they would accidentally pull down malware. Now, the malware was designed to steal cryptocurrency wallets, financial account information
Phew, there, don't have
from
one of
these people
those.
who were software developers. This doesn't affect a lot of people, but it affects the people who write the code and have access to things in a lot of cases that you really don't want their account credentials going out. Because if you're talking about like people in what's called a DevOps situation where they're developers
Yeah.
who also do operations,
Yeah.
getting access to their access credentials
Keys
could
to
be
the
exactly
kingdom.
what they need to get access to your bank account.
That's exactly right.
This is extremely dangerous, and it turns out that it's been a problem. There have been, by some accounts, 5,700 downloads of these compromised packages with the Yeah. Yeah. But as a more general thing, just because this only happens to developers, you don't need to care about that. How about this? From Security Week, over 250 U.S. news websites delivered malware via supply chain attack.
Even more reason not to listen to the news.
So what happened was a bunch of, says hundreds of regional and national news websites in the United States are delivering malware as a result of a supply chain attack involving one of the service providers. So these big companies that aggregate ads for these newspapers, right? They sell ad space to people. What happened is they got hacked, and then they injected a bunch of evil into the JavaScript that got sent out to 250 news websites. So you, Joe Consumer, go to read the news on whatever website it is. And you end up, if you don't have your browser locked down properly, then evil JavaScript comes in, and next thing you know, you've got problems with your browser.
You've got
Web
malware.
security firm Securi reported in August that it had seen 25,000 sites infected with the malware since the beginning of January, and 61,000 infected in 2021. So SOC Ghoulish is a JavaScript malware framework and has been linked to some of the notorious Russian cybercrime group named Evil Corp. However, so this is terrible, and this is the kind of stuff that, why don't they talk about this in the news? Is it just because it's boring and I'm boring and I only read about boring things? Because this seems like it's way more important than Paul Pelosi and his underwear hammer time.
This is obviously much more important than that. This is something that, if something like this gets out of hand, it could shut us down. You could shut down business in the United States.
Well, this is the kind of thing that causes consumers, like end users, like the people watching this right here. This is that first thing I talked about was a thing that affects developers, and it's bad. Yeah. But this is the kind of thing that if you are running around the great unwashed internet, you really need to have something like NoScript or other tools loaded on your browsers. Your browser needs to be hardened to the point where you're not just basically grabbing your ankles as you wander around the internet. This is, I can't stress enough how important it is to have like good stuff here. And a lot of this, what would happen is when people would go to scan this code, they would change it. So the distribution feed would sometimes have the malicious code and sometimes wouldn't, which made it very hard for the malware scanners that were developing fingerprint profiles for your antivirus software to accurately pick this stuff up. Yeah. So by just occasionally spitting out the bad code, they were able to circumvent detection for quite a while. Yeah.
Pretty smart.
Yeah, those hackers actually are pretty smart people.
They are. They're usually extremely. I've known Harry and I have known some pretty talented people who.
NordVPN would not save you from this, man. All of VPN would not save you from this, unfortunately.
VPN is a. It's like wearing a bulletproof vest made out of boiled leather. You know, it's hard. It seems
stop
like
at 22.
Seems like it might stop something. You know,
BB.
Well, they protect your privacy in some ways. So a VPN can make it so that every little thing you do on the internet isn't collected by your ISP and then sold to the highest bidder.
No, but it
does
not
what you do.
Mask you. It does not hide where you are, who you are, or anything else. That they can know the speed of your. They can know the ratio of the speed of your of a chip on your video card to the ratio of the speed of something else, and they can make a number that can't be duplicated anywhere else. There's so many ways to fingerprint a system other than by IP number.
It's true. It's true. But if you have, if you turn off the ability for certain types of executable code to run in your web browser, a lot of that becomes much harder to do. you don't have. It's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like the old analogy. You don't have to outrun the bear. You just have to outrun the next guy who's slower than you, right? You know, I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun you. You just don't want to be the low hanging fruit on the internet waiting to be exploited.
Mm.
Anyway, that was cheerful. How about this? It is a vest deliberately designed to interfere with AI detection.
Oh yeah, I like this.
Look, magic vest. The guy in the middle just sort of disappears as being detected by a human by the AI.
And then he puts it on and just poof. Harry Potter and his vanishing
That's
sweater.
really cool.
Yeah.
It's like those there's a guy who makes like glasses, or there's the other the paparazzi, anti-paparazzi scarf that basically if you have any sort of flash or light against the person, any photos will be completely drowned out by it.
Mm-hmm.
I love this sort of stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
it's one of those things
Urban
like
camouflage.
humans
Yeah.
are nothing if not ingenuitive, or at least some humans are.
Mm.
So like it's one of those things. I get being scared of things, but to me it's more of be aware of them, but understand someone will break it at some point.
Yeah. If you
And-
if you were a grandmother and you wanted to get rid of a pesky grandson, an annoying one, just give him one of these sweaters for Christmas and then wait for him to get run over by a Tesla on autopilot.
Yeah, really. That's what I want to see this thing again. Is a Tesla. Like
That's why I bought that Build Your Own RPG handbook. ain't no Skynet coming for me.
Hey, so you said you didn't want to talk about black holes functional. Do you stand by that, or
Fine,
is
we
it
can
only
talk about
Stacey
George
Abrams? No, it's Stacey
Oh,
Abrams. This is the
actual
thing I
cool
asked you to
black
look
hole.
at. Yeah, so a black hole basically ate a star and then burped up little shredded pieces of it like, sorry.
Got
So-
indigestion. Oh.
So
Which
tell
we've-
us about
we've-
this
we've-
story.
We've
Give me the
we've
5-minute version.
We've seen that, or scientists, astronomers have seen that happen before. But what's weird and unique, so far as we can tell about this one, is when stellar matter is absorbed by a black hole phenomenon and then expelled, it's usually right away. So they theorize it takes too much at once. So theorizing that there's some sort of finite amount of stuff that can happen, and then it immediately ejects. But this seems to be the stellar matter that this black hole absorbed 3 years prior and then ejected.
Yeah, I
And
thought
it's
it was
really
like a
cool because
one-way street. You know, I've never heard of. I read a lot of space stuff, but I've never heard of black holes just being this
Burping?
finicky that they upchuck a little bit.
I'm having a little bit of heartburn, Jerry. Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
oh, acid
No.
reflux. Oi.
Just
Don't
pat
even
it
get
on its
me
little back.
started.
It's a colicky black hole.
Ugh.
So just like very primarily, what's really cool about this is 665 million light years away. So just to give people a perspective of what the scientists were looking at, it would take us, with our current technology, barring any sort of spatial phenomenon, about 22 million years to go 600 million light years away. So we're watching the past unfold millions of years ago with this phenomenon. And it's really interesting because, again, it's something they haven't seen before. Because, again, they've seen the stellar matter be ejected in these burps from black hole phenomenon before, but never with a time delay that 3 years. And what this raises so many questions, so many that they don't even know what the questions are at this point, of other than why did this happen. We should be getting more soon. I seem to have lost the article because there was one part I wanted to. Can you pass it to me? I had it up, but I guess I didn't.
Sure.
There was, or can scroll down. There was one.
I will
part
put it.
wanted
I
to
will
read.
put it in the main
Okay.
chat so that other people can see it as well.
Oh, awesome. Okay, cool. So, on October 2018, a small star was ripped to shreds when it wandered too close to a black hole in a galaxy located 665 million light years away from Earth. Though it may sound thrilling, these events did not come as a surprise to astronomers who occasionally witness these violent incidents while scanning the night sky. But nearly 3 years after the massacre, the same black hole is lighting up the skies again, and it wasn't swallowed anything new, scientists say. So right there, they could be mistaken. They could just have missed it. But what they think is that was that same material from the stars. The team spotted the unusual outburst while revisiting tidal disruption events when encroaching stars are spaghettified by black holes. I love that, spaghettified. Ugh.
It's like they run it through the cosmic spiralizer.
Yeah. That occurred over the last several years. Radio data from the Very Large Array in New Mexico showed that the black hole had mysteriously reanimated in June 2021. Sendies and the team rushed to examine the event more closely. This caught us completely by surprise. No one has ever seen anything like this before. From the head scientist Yvette Sendies, the Center for Astrophysics. We've been studying TD because this is interesting because I didn't know that this was this new. We've been studying the TDEs, the phenomenon that's happening here, with radio telescopes for more than a decade, and we've sometimes find that they shine in radio waves as they spew out material while the star is first being consumed by the black hole. Because previous to that, we did see that there were radio transmissions coming out from, and this is all hypothesis, from the black holes before, but up until recently, in the last over 11 and a half years, I think it is, have they actually discovered that stellar matter can be ejected from a black hole as well?
I'm going to have to wrap my brain around this because, like I said, I still am. This is still news to me that such a thing can happen, because it's like it was always just sort of intense gravity stuff gets sucked in, disappears from the actual universe. Things aren't supposed to come out of black holes.
Well, Hawking radiation is.
Yeah, well, we start getting into this whole information theory thing, and it all sounds.
Right.
I'm extremely dubious about some of this.
Well, for about 20 years, we've been able to see how energy can escape from a black hole, but we haven't seen stellar matter on this level up until 11 and a half years ago. So you're right, it is very, very new. And, just reading a little bit more about, what some other astrophysics might think was going on is that one theory, and I thought that this was so cool, was that inside of a black hole, there is actually for lack of a better word, heavy air quotes here, a physical space. So a finite amount of room before it can eject it back to the point that we as a species are observing versus its hypothetical other end point. It might be a tunnel rather than a hole kind of thing. So what you're seeing is, like I said before, kind of like a little bit of acid reflux in the human digestive system, a little too much chemical reaction going on in the tube, and it comes out a little bit. It goes up, and it's so cool. I can't wait to see what more they can actually start quantifying from this.
I'm imagining a wormhole, like a drain that gets backed up. You need to you need to get it.
Snake it.
You're getting it snaked.
And does some of that stellar material act as grease? And once it gets to a certain temperature, or does it change states and then affect the gravitational pull of a black hole? And I'm going way down the rabbit hole here, because honestly, the shit we know about this, nothing. We
really don't understand black holes.
We're looking at the sky going, holy shit, that just happened, and writing it down and going, okay, bookmark that. But it's so cool at the same time.
It's like what Skep was talking about, Hawking radiation. I mean, I admit that when I was a kid, I read a bunch of stuff about black holes, and I was sort of up to date at that point. I start hearing people talk about information theory as it applies to black holes and things like that. I'm like, I don't know, man. I find it all to be extremely. It's sort of like how I feel about a lot of other things. I don't feel like I know enough about it to really speak authoritatively. And even if Skep does know about Hawking radiation, we don't have time to talk about Hawking radiation. But yeah.
We know more about the human brain than we do about the universe, and we still don't know dick all about the human brain, and we can look at them.
One thing I was curious, did they detect a lot of gamma radiation from this?
I believe it only said radio waves.
Well,
Yeah, there's a lot of
Okay.
gamma radiation that gets emitted as stuff spirals its way in, because there's a lot of energy being accumulated, and
Yeah.
photons come out with a lot of
Well,
energy.
that's
the
what
thing-
that's what I figured. Yeah. That's why
The thing that's
probably a gamma radiator. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that's something that we can commonly theorize that happens, but something that isn't as common is radio waves.
well, when it goes
it's-
when it goes in, those stuff doesn't usually come out. As far as
No, not
radio
at all.
waves go, that imaging of a black hole that they did, essentially the space around it, they've done with radio waves. Radio waves are an extremely good way for imaging the area around a black hole. You can't really image
for them
the
to
hole
come out.
itself. Yeah. Now, what Skep's talking about is when things get gobbled up by black holes, there are definitely scenarios where you can get a lot of hard X-rays and gamma rays. In
Yes.
fact, there's a fairly famous one of this one galaxy. It has a supermassive black hole at the center of it. And the way that stuff is spiraling into it is essentially causing it to emit gamma rays, very, very high energy gamma rays, along its north and south pole. And it's essentially pointed at this other galaxy, and that one black hole is essentially sterilizing with hard radiation an entire galaxy.
Yes.
Black
You're talking
holes are
about
dicks. You talk about things that don't care about you. Pfizer executives don't care about you, and black holes do not care about you.
And Stacey Abrams is a black
Is
hole.
a black hole.
She is the.
Are you talking about Sagittarius A, Harry?
But I want to show you.
Center of the...
No, not Sagittarius A, but I want to show you something super cool. As cool as this is, I actually really like planetary science, but this is some recent stuff from the Webb telescope. This is an image of Jupiter from the Webb telescope. I'm going to go full screen here, and
God, that's
sorry.
beautiful.
Take it in, people.
this is absolutely fan-damtastic. You can see the auroras that are happening in the
Yeah.
north and south poles.
Is
and you
that
can
the storm spot there?
Yeah, that's the red
Yeah.
spot, and it's there's all this energy in there, so it's showing up as a
See all
different
that
color.
blue.
And you can see just a little bit of Jupiter's ring system, which is not nearly as pronounced as the one on Saturn, but it is there, and it's being picked up by a telescope that's near the Earth. This is a fantastic picture.
Yeah, it's amazing. That
But
is
is-
an amazing picture.
As good as this is, take a look at this.
Oh,
darn
Neptune?
This is Neptune. So here's the Voyager image on the
Not
left.
Uranus?
Voyager 2. This is Neptune. So Voyager 2 is the only probe that has ever been to that's ever visited Neptune. Okay, and this was back in 1989. This is a fantastic picture.
Oh.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
it
And then
high?
here's
we saw that it had a
here's
spot.
here's the Hubble image in the middle.
Mhm.
Kind of blurry, but still an amazing image considering that you didn't send a probe all the way there. And
Yeah.
then here's the Webb telescope image. You've got ring structure.
Holy
You've
crap.
got moons. You've got structure in
Holy
the atmosphere.
crap.
This is a
uh,
fantastic
auroras.
picture. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Not as pronounced as Jupiter, but I mean, you would expect that from something that's a dwarf compared to
That-
Jupiter. But man, that
far
is
away,
incredible.
farther away too.
Yeah.
So I wanted to show you. Let's see. There's that. That's the
That
IR
Lagrange point
comparison.
doing work.
So here's a bunch of images that Voyager took of Neptune. So this was the state of the art in in the 1980s, and this is amazing. You know, these are fantastic images. But the problem is that Neptune gets 0.1% as much sunlight as the Earth does. So in order to even get these images with the technology they had at the time, the camera was struggling to get enough light in to get the images. So they had to change the speed of the spacecraft to the extent that they could to have it try to match the orbital velocity of Neptune. And they were
Hold the
doing
exposure
longer exposures, but they couldn't make them too long because you start losing detail.
Right.
And each of these images took, like hours to come back over this tenuous radio link. Neptune is 29 astronomical units. That's 29 times further from the sun than the Earth is. It's a long freaking way away. It's a big deal. I was actually looking at the path that this took I was going to show the video, but I decided for the sake of time to leave it off. Essentially, that this thing had to take off from the Earth, then slingshot around Jupiter. Now, at the time when this happened, Saturn was kind of 1/3 of the way on the other side of the orbit. So it had to go around Jupiter and then haul ass for 4 or 5 years all the way to get over to Saturn. It wasn't like they were in a straight line at all. This was a huge thing. And then from Saturn, the thing had to then go on to get to, past Uranus and Neptune. And so this is the only visit we've ever had from a probe. The fact that they were able to do this at all is actually pretty cool. Now, speaking of things that are cool, this is a guy named Ed Stone from JPL. He is the mission leader, the guy who basically put all this shit together for the Voyager probe. He has been in charge of the Voyager program for 50 years.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
And he retired.
He just retired a couple days ago.
Oh,
Cool.
congratulations, sir.
What have I been doing with my life? This guy has
salute
changed
you.
human history and development for the last 50 years, and I've been sitting on my ass.
I
Yeah.
salute you, good sir. I salute you.
He was one of my kind of heroes when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Of course he was.
Yeah, he was.
It's
You
just
know.
that's a very hairy thing to say.
Yeah. Well, I like people who do space science stuff. But yeah, he basically started working at the Jet Propulsion Lab fairly early, and he put these missions together, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. And he was the director of the center for about 10 years, from I think 91 to 2000 of the Jet Propulsion Lab. So this is like, one of the big pioneers. I mean, he's a super important guy.
Well lived.
Yeah.
Life well lived.
And I'm glad
about
it's
no
just
regrets.
a retirement and not
Yeah,
an
no
obituary.
regrets. For
No.
real.
Yeah. No, he's a fantastic guy. But from that, we have to move on to the really light and unimportant
Salutes in
news.
chat.
So, Dane Cook. Oh, come on, load.
Oh,
Can we get the
Jesus.
Jupiter and pictures in chat?
Sure.
at some point?
Why is it not loading?
Oh, just. Did you get Geode's internet?
Oh, he's got the loads. He's got the loads.
He's
He's got the
loads.
loads.
I'll just wait for it to load in the background.
Nope.
Just try to
Just give it a
fill
moment.
This
So,
is
which things did
a
they
nice
want to
photo.
see? Did they want to see the Jupiter image, the web images? Which things am I sharing?
Spud Gun says he wants the picture of Jupiter in the chat, Harry.
There we go. That's the IR picture of Jupiter in the chat. Okay, Dane Cook, 50, says he is excited to have kids with his fiancée, Kelsey Taylor, 24, but wants to wait until the time is right despite their 26-year-old age gap.
Greg,
Ew.
not getting any younger.
It's like,
Hypergamy is a thing, Harry. Live with it.
okay.
One day
Now-
you too could have your 24-year-old fiance.
Okay.
He's old enough to be her father. It's disgusting.
It's kind of weird, but it's kind of none of my business. But it reminded me of something else, which was an Uncle Roger thing. Let's see if we can bring that up
I
without
bet you
screwing
Rogered
everything
your
up.
uncle.
About dating a 20-year-old is when they talk, you don't really have to listen because you know you're not missing anything important. When we are 20, like,
Damn.
what important thought have you had? Nothing. If you ever date someone who's age inappropriate to you, just make sure they are arm candy. Make sure they look good because that's the only thing they're good for.
You can't
I mean, at least she was our
At that point, they're gonna grow into full human beings in like
Jesus
7 years' time. Then they'll have some life experience, some work experience. They have traveled a bit. They'll start to have like opinions that are like not dumb.
I mean,
No lies detected.
Yeah, no, I detected.
So maybe
fact
maybe
that
Dane
Checkers are
Cook
saying
is,
it's true.
maybe
I
Dane
just
Cook
wanna
has the
go-
right idea.
I just want to go up to him and say, just buy her a house and skip the part where you end up hating each other.
He's just waiting for her to grow up a little bit before they have any kids. It'll be
Yeah,
fine.
That's what it is. It'll be fine.
maybe he already gave her like a pet hamster and it died a horrible death in like 2 weeks. So he's like, we're gonna wait a few years before
He's
we
a
have
rich
baby.
guy. She's
Yeah.
gonna fix all that.
Yeah.
Well, it's like it technically
Stealing
by
jokes
average,
sells well. I'm sorry,
by
go ahead. She's got good abs. And clearly
Yeah.
she spends a lot of time at the gym.
I mean, when your boyfriend pays for your lifestyle, why wouldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, at least he got the arm candy part right. So, you know,
Yeah,
he's got
that's
his
about
he's
it.
50 something and he's got his 24-year-old wife and
You
but
know,
he's going to
it's
put off
sort of
having
the-
kids at 50. That seems like a bad decision. Is he good? Can he math good? You know, how do you really want to be the guy at parent teacher day who's on a walker?
Well, I mean, he is in Los Angeles still, so it's not like that's that odd.
In 20 years, he's going to be 70.
That's
And
what
she's gonna
nannies
be-
are
She
for.
will be 44.
And she'll moved on to her second husband.
So she'll
Mhm.
be, yeah.
Who's
she'll
younger
be
than her.
She'll be on her 3-banger by then.
Do, 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 do.
She'll be headed for love.
You guys are so cynical. This is true love.
I think Uncle
This-
Roger's hilarious. I really do. Because it's like
Yeah.
he's not wrong, but he's saying so much of the quiet part out loud. I was kind of taken aback by it because I ran into this article and that Uncle Roger thing on the same day, and I said, "It's Kismet. I have to share this with
Yeah,
people,
perfect.
and I have
It
to
is
share them at the same time."
Serendipity.
That's how the show gets planned, basically.
I didn't pull up the stuff I read before because I didn't know we were covering the story, but these types of arrangements work out a lot more often than you think. It's just because we've been exposed to the big Hollywood style 50-year-old man, half his age fiance, they get divorced 10 years later or whatever. In most circumstances, those types of relationships pan out.
At least the last study I looked at, most relationships last the longest or the healthiest where there's a 7 to 10 year age gap at max.
Yeah, no, that's an apex like ideal statistic. But I'm just saying when this kind of stuff, as long as it's not like 80 and 20 or whatever, but things that are 40 to 50 and generally about half their age, tend to work out for most people.
Well, Stanhope looks like he's
Good.
Dane
shape.
Cook, not Doug Stanhope. Dane Cook looks like he's in shape. I mean, he's taking care of himself.
Turned it
so, I mean, you
around.
could-
He turned it around about 8 years ago and started getting in really good shape. So, I mean,
Well, my one issue is that there's certain things with the background and such and certain fuzziness that makes me think filter, not actual in shape stuff. Like
Well,
there's certain
giving-
discolor.
he
giving
used
him
to
the
be
benefit of the giving him the
working on it.
benefit of the doubt. I mean, yeah, it could just all be
Working on it.
Photoshop magic, but Uncle Roger is right. Not only is she still sort of figuring out what it's like to be an adult version of herself, they have so little common frame of reference. I mean, she can only pretend to like Dave Matthews Band for so long.
God.
Oh my god, she's a Pilates instructor. Sweet Jesus. Could this have been more stereotypical?
I don't think so.
And a certified nutritionist, which means she's bullshit and full of shit. Because you can't,
Well-
there's no such thing as certified nutritionists in America. It's only certified dietitians.
Is Dane Cook funny?
He used to be, kind of.
He was
Sometimes.
well, he does manage to fill very large venues, and there was some controversy about him supposedly stealing jokes. Now, the people that he supposedly stole the jokes from, they've since sort of shaken hands and moved on. So it's not for me to be picking other people's scabs here and bringing this up, but that's basically him in a nutshell. He's one of those comedians that can fill a big auditorium. So he's financially very successful, but there's some question about just how ethical he is about the source of some of his material.
Sure. But okay, so my point is he can be, and I mean, there's two direct ways that I can think of off the top of my head to a woman's heart. And one is through her stomach. You just get up and, feeding them well
Careful, Icarus.
is very attractive. And also being funny. Having a great sense of humor is very attractive to a lot of women.
Power is also quite the aphrodisiac, and money and power
We've already
are
touched
somewhat
on the money and
interchangeable.
power thing. I mean,
Yeah.
hypergamy is a thing. Like, it
Yeah.
can be a thing. But I'm saying just on a more to use the term from earlier, pure sense of attraction. I mean, again, I hate to be cynical and say, oh, they're going to get divorced in 5 years or whatever, but I think that could be a powerful attraction to her, or to in someone in that kind of a situation. And yeah, he was on a bad physical health path, and about 8 years ago he turned it around and he started making better life choices. He used to be pretty pudgy, and not pudgy in an okay way, like that's just how he's kind of built, but in a pudgy, you can see that he's unhealthy kind of pudgy. And
it's the bloat, not the pudge.
Being a comedian on the road, doing a lot of road time, is not the easiest lifestyle for staying in shape.
Yeah, but having like swollen glands and jowls, like lower half of the face, but still having a very gaunt cheekbone kind of thing.
A lot of processed foods, alcohol.
A lot of that bloats the gut to make it more rotund. As I'm stroking mine.
He's at the point in his career though where he can literally have a nutritionist chef follow him around and cook for him regardless of where he is in the country. So, his excuses are there, but coming up, working his way up as a comedian to the level that he's at, it's a pretty unhealthy lifestyle. You'll have stuff in the writer saying you have to have like a bottle of of like high-end tequila in the green room waiting for you. It's just not a healthy way to live. It's very hard to stay in shape and be a top-level comedian.
Mm-hmm. All right, I have to.
And Tom Papa keeps giving you free bread. That's a problem. Sorry, Trinity.
I address something that's going on in chat.
Okay.
Yes, I'm being a busybody. I'm disgusted by the age difference. I don't give a shit how old he is. When you're old enough to have given birth to the girl you're fucking, I have a problem with it.
Serenity, regardless of what the media says, men can't have babies.
It does seem kind of gross.
I mean, sire, I know, I'm
saying.
making a joke.
Yeah, it's just, but apparently, I understand that men like younger girls. There's a line when you can have given birth to that girl, that gotten a girl pregnant. And
what is it, half your age plus 7? I can't remember what the formula is supposed to be.
My issue is that exactly like Uncle Roger's thing. What do you talk about?
Yeah. What do you have in common? That she spends your money because she's a Pilates instructor in Los Angeles? That's not a dime a dozen.
That's for me, like, you get, the closer you are, it's just you might not, but it is.
I don't know. I'd imagine it's the same stuff Elwin and I talk about. Stupid people, stuff that's going on, stupid people, like things.
Assassin,
just talk about stuff.
Why are we talking about Muhammad? That has nothing to do with anything.
Well,
yeah, no. That is
yeah.
We're talking about over 18 consenting adults.
She's still consenting. I may not agree with it, but she's absolute consenting. She has her own mind and body. She can do whatever she wants. But I can still sit there and go. Blah, blah, blah.
I think to make life for me, it's because everyone treats 20-something-year-olds as still being like babies. Children, you know what I mean? That's kind of where I'm like, but she's like young. But in reality, she is.
Yeah, she's a consenting adult, and if she wants to be in that relationship,
she's already in her quarter life kind of thing, right? She's halfway to 30, which is a like full-fledged adult. So,
well, who says she isn't taking advantage of him?
Oh,
I mean, you could argue that the same way. You want me to show that picture, Skep?
Yeah. That's them in Dane Cook's apartment. By the way, the dog on next to his right hand is a Rhodesian Ridgeback. You don't see too many of those. That's the dog that shoved me down to the ground and broke my arm.
Can't he afford to buy her pants that aren't patched? I mean, can't he get her some new jeans?
Exactly.
And
buy a button for that top. But,
I love the dog on as you look on the right there. That looks like has a
head.
Yeah.
It looks like he's got testicles.
That's a girl dog on the right.
I understand what you're talking about, Assassin, but you can't judge a historical time period and what had to be done then with the Hollywood of 2022.
Yeah.
They met during
too
the
much.
It's
game
apples and
night.
oranges. They're both fruit,
Yeah.
but I mean, they're still apples
Yeah.
and oranges.
Yeah.
They have 2 dogs together. She doesn't mind if Dane makes jokes at her expense. So it's we have a bit of an age difference, so it's in the show.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't do it. Again, it's mostly just the fact that I think it's kind of weird is like, yeah, but it's not, I don't have to date her, so I don't care.
It's all just like brain chemicals, and you are looking for the best mutually beneficial partnership with someone. He wants supposedly arm candy, somebody that can have his babies, and a fertile young thing like that probably can oblige him. She wants money, his money and fame, and his companionship.
I think you're hitting it. You're hitting it, Functional. You're exactly right. This is what Functional is saying is exactly right. It's their mental states are so different, because he's going, hey, I'm 50, but I've still got it going on. I'm rich and famous, and I got a hot girlfriend. You know, he's doing that. She's going, there is no downside for me.
Yeah.
There is literally no downside.
He's going to provide for me and the supposed children, and I'm going to have this amazing life with him.
And if not, the courts will provide bountifully for me.
Nowhere in there does it say anything about them having a prenup. At least that I saw.
Yeah, I saw.
They're not married,
I
are
was
they?
looking at it too. Yeah,
They're engaged right now.
They're engaged.
So there's still time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just keep some hot sauce in the bathroom. Like, what was it? That's what the Drake method.
Yeah, that was Drake method. Put that hot sauce in that biznitch.
It's a fun mental exercise for me, Skep, to sort of suss out motivations, why people work, and psychology has always been interesting to me. So when you give me a piece of meat like this, I want to kind of sink my teeth in.
Well, my job is to get people talking.
Quite the
Actually,
beefcake, you know.
I didn't expect this to resonate as much as it did, but then again, that's what makes the show interesting for me.
I've made the mistake of going on YouTube Shorts, and I see a lot of older men talking shit to women who are around my age and basically telling them they're worthless. So yeah, I openly admit to the fact it struck a nerve, because I'm getting tired of being told that in my 30s I should now just be put out to pasture and ignored. And it is.
Yeah, that's ignorant. That's just stupid.
And it does hurt. And it's like, I don't want Dane Cook. I've never been attracted to Dane Cook. He doesn't seem like a bad guy. And I in no way, shape, or form want their relationship to go bad. It's just, there's something, and maybe it's because I have a lot of little cousins who are around kind of this age difference with me, maybe because I can still see them as children. It's just that it doesn't leave my head. And I understand for others don't see it that way, but it squicks me out when you're old enough to be their parent. And I don't care who's older. I don't care if the woman is older than the man. I don't care if the woman's older than the woman. I don't care. It's still blah. It just squicks me. And so yeah, I will admit the fact that all right, Spud Gun. Never mind. I'm moving on. Never mind.
I got hair in my mouth by biting her butt.
Well, you've heard me make comments about Macron and his teacher that he basically married. The age difference between those two. So I mean, I'm already well on record about this thing. But Skep is probably the only one who knows what I'm going to be talking about. You remember when Tony Randall had a kid, and wasn't he like 70 something? He had some 20. His third or fourth wife was like 20 something. Yeah. That was pretty creepy.
Yeah, Segovia, the guitarist, did the same thing. Father was 72 years old.
Anyway,
it also is just biological imperative. Men, matter of fact, men are fertile almost their entire life. Women aren't. There's in all the scope of things, a very narrow window in which they can produce offspring, and it's that biological imperative to want to have offspring that even, like it or not, even old people want to have.
Yeah,
at some
but
point.
he's also humans have evolved and have a lot more intellect. We may have these drives and stuff, but he's also smart enough to
No,
know
I'm
better.
not saying.
He
saying
should
this.
have ought to know better, because we can check back, and if we're doing this still in 5 years, we'll be talking about how large a lovely parting gift she's going to receive.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Up
But
until
anyway-
now, I didn't know anything about either of these two people. I'm just looking at them as a case study.
Sorry, not trying to push anybody's buttons here with
Interesting
this thing.
Interesting thing about this is they've been going together for 5 years.
Fully.
Which means that at one point she was 19, and he was 40 something. Now that's even grosser.
That was what wigged me out, was the fact that she did this 5 years ago.
Okay, well, now that I've felt like throwing up in my mouth a little bit, what a horrible time! What a
I almost didn't bring that up, Harry. I almost said no.
Adamantine. He's like, Tony Randall was straight. Yes, he was actually straight.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing, isn't it, Natty?
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, this has been your Minions of the Zoo for Saturday.
Oh,
We're
we're leaving
sorry.
off on that?
We're sorry.
I don't have anything else.
We're sorry.
Bring back the cute hippo.
Oh, you want the hippo?
Information is
Wait.
conserved.
Okay, hold on. Where's the
I
hippo?
agree, Geodes. It is a chat of sin.
Where is the hippo? Oh, darn it.
I'm still
Hippo.
pulling cat hair out of my beard.
Hippo. Where's the hippo? Oh, wait. That's not. There's the hippo.
Baby hippo.
And we'll go ahead and have that be the last thing for the show. Okay, this has been your Minions of the Zoo for Saturday. Thank you to my panel for joining me tonight, and thank you for chat. It's been an interesting one and a lot of fun. Good night, everybody.
Remember, Americans, vote.
Nah.
Save the carnivorous hippos.